Hello, I'm James Toy, Senior Vice President of Government Affairs for KCRAR. You're about to watch one of our candidate interviews, an unfiltered, front row look at how those seeking office approach the issues that shape private property rights and the real estate industry as a whole. We share these conversations publicly so you can hear directly from the candidates, understand their positions in their words, and cast your vote with confidence. Well, good deal. Well, hey, thank you so much for making the time today. James Toy, I'm the SVP of Government Affairs for KCRAR, and I'm joined by my friend and colleague, Jeff Carson. Jeff, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, Brandon. My name is Jeff Carson. I thank you for being here today. I am the Director of Realtor Advocacy and Commercial Services here at KCRR, but I'm also a practicing member. So I'm licensed and list and sell every day. So I come at a few things from a little bit different perspective. I'm also the Chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for the Unified Government of Kansas City, Kansas.
Interesting. Cool. Nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
And Brandon, it seems like you have a pretty storied history with public service and public involvement. Love to hear a little bit about that and why you're seeking office again.
A little bit. So I don't know how much you guys know about me, so I'm just gonna start with the basic bio, but any questions you got, obviously ask me. Um, Prior to taking office, I started and ran several nonprofits, Voices of the People. I'm my brother's keeper. Taking office, I got elected in 2011, I want to say, to the Missouri House. Served as a Democrat. The entirety of my time at the House, I started in leadership. So I served as the vice chair of the Black Caucus, then I was the chair of the Black Caucus, then I was the Democratic whip of the Democratic Caucus. Got elected to the City Council in 2019. My legislative agenda has always been socially active, for lack of better words, meaning I'm heavy on criminal justice issues, heavy on policy issues, heavy on deconstructing laws that create barriers, whether that's institutional laws or governmental policies or what have you. Uh, Community-wise, my policies and my community activities fall in line. So one of the nonprofits that I organize with is URL, which is Giving Yourself Real Love. And that's a domestic violence organization. So we do domestic violence programming, forums, seminars, and policy-wise at the state level, you will see that I passed or worked on passed legislation that removed the um, 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 uh, sexual molestation um, aspect. So there is no longer a term limit on that. Senator Salone is still working on the financial aspect, but that was a compromise in my bill. And I'm actually going to do a video highlight on that. Um, and that was a direct correlation from the work we do with GRL and the domestic violence agencies, working on that sexual issue. On the city council, one of the ordinances that I passed that falls in line in that succession would be the Office of Citizen Engagement. And the metrics of that office was supposed to reallocate DOJ dollars. I say was supposed to because it got absolved in the 360. And if you know anything about the 360, that would be the criminal justice dollars that the city has now. So I think they're up to like $300 million, but the office got absolved into that. So it had a slightly different functionality, which was supposed to organize and expand the nonprofit uh, base of the city. And I can go on, but I don't know how much I know, so I just want to hit something like that.
No, those are great highlights. I appreciate you sharing. And it sounds like you have a really good baseline. Clearly, you've had experience at the state level, at the local level. Have a bit of a twofold question for you.
Mhm.
One, you followed an interesting pathway. Usually you don't go from state to city to county. So I'd love to hear your insights into why that's the path you're choosing. And two, based on your previous state and local experience, what kind of housing policies might you be advocating for if you're successful in your election?
All right, so that's a twofold question. So the first fold, I would say, would be divine intervention. So when I initially ran for office, I'm talking about initially ran. Before I got to the state, I ran for city council. And I ran for city council because I was in a meeting with a gentleman that was running for 5th District, and I just happened to be able to answer a lot of the civic questions. Lost that race and ran for the state. I ran for the state for the same reason that I've been aggressive in the political ring. So my community background again, Source of Voices of the People, which is a nonprofit organization, and we did pantries, community conscious, raising events around politics, policies, laws, and all that good stuff. And that was before I was in office. So the first state rep race, there was a candidate that was being placed in the race that I knew didn't live in the area. So I got involved in that race. I was blessed to win that election, which was a special election. And since then, I've been engaged in politics. So I went to the state off of a candidate that was placed in the district that I knew didn't represent the district, and I wanted to represent the district. When I got elected to the state politics, my eyes opened because I started understanding the strings and then what I was seeing on the ground. So on the ground, I was seeing a lot of disinvestments, but I didn't necessarily understand the full connections. So that will go to your second fold. I know I didn't fully answer the first one, but it will go to your second fold. So when you talk about housing policy, coming to the city council, I was involved with more developers than I was involved with at the state, but it was the same connectivity, but just a different relationship now. And the demand was different. And my issue on the city council was accurate investments, right? I don't have an issue with credits. I don't have an issue with developers. I do have an issue with development projects that on paper can actually come about. And now I'm speaking largely on the east side of Kansas City. So when you look at development dispersed around the city, not necessarily independent, dispersed around the city, you will see an unlevelness of projects being completed in a timely manner and projects that are repeatedly funded because they're in a low uh, census tract area, which in my opinion is scamming. So to answer your question, what I would like to see from the county level is more investments in the cities that actually equate to real development. Um, what I've seen at the city level was a lot of potential when you talk about leveling development stacks, but since the development stacks was leveled simply off of the incentive and not the development, there's no benefit. If that makes sense.
No, absolutely. That makes complete sense. And since you talked about developers, I want to ask a follow-up on that. We work with the home builders pretty frequently, and one thing we often hear from them is, and I'd love to hear your perspective, is that KCMO and Jackson County as a whole sometimes puts up unnecessary barriers to bringing more housing inventory online. In your experience, is that the case?
Yeah. Now, when you talk about some of the regulatory issues, that's different than non-completion of the projects that I'm talking about.
Mhm.
Uh, but yes, there's a whole bunch of burdens at the city level. Uh, I want to say they was going through the neighborhood departments when I was still there. Uh, there was a lot of procedures and processes that was redundant that should be processed out at the county level. I don't know all of the processes that are actually happening right now, but I'm pretty sure there's similar delays and issues with permits and being able to develop. And I know we have a lot of unincorporated areas in Jackson County, which created a barrier for me. So at the state level, I wanted to work with Kansas City and do a development over there by the Royal Stadium, right? This is when Nixon was still in office. But I had issues connecting with the city council, not the government, not the governor's office, which was a problem. Um, on the council, uh, I couldn't find a developer that wanted to actually develop in that area, not because of what we could do with incentives, but the developers that I had access to was more concerned about some of the specialized taxes on the east side as opposed to building out and scoping out a plan, which was problematic for me.
Hmm. So it sounds like you
So
just
yes,
couldn't
there's
find the right
issues.
match for that particular
Yeah, I was
initiative.
looking for it. No, I was actually looking for it because I understand what holistic developments can be. And I'll give you an example of holistic development of something that I was trying to put together. So off of Stadium Drive, going down to Van Brunt, Cleaver Boulevard to Stadium Drive, going down to Van Brunt, across from the Veterans Apartments. There's a whole bunch of land over there, right? Now this land is semi-contaminated, so that would open up the door for brownfields and all type of stuff, right? It's in a community area, so that will open up the door for housing, and I also want to do a big box build, not necessarily a dedicated uh, tenant in there, but a big box build. And what I mean by a big box build, off of the highway going to Independence, they have battle names. They have a sports complex where they have the hockey games in there and they have the circus in there and all that good stuff. I wanted to do a big box multi complex there in which we can actually benefit off of different activities. But I couldn't get a developer there because it was right outside the CCED line. Um, it was attractive, but it wasn't attractive because you had to do a lot of work.
Understood. Yeah, sometimes you can have all the stars aligned and it just doesn't really pan out. Just there could be one kink in the system when it comes to
Yeah.
development, right? Jeff, I believe you have the next question.
Well, I just wanted to speak a little bit about infrastructure. I mean, having good infrastructure, I mean, and the variety of projects that you talked about, both with housing and with, entertainment districts and things like that you're talking about, you got to have good infrastructure. How do you feel like your role, what skills do you bring to the table to, not necessarily the skills you bring to the table, but how would you address infrastructure or projects? Because obviously it's needed in order to make these things come to fruition.
I'm going to actually need just a little bit more clarity on what you mean by infrastructure. You talking about like county property?
Roads, sewer systems, water, yeah.
Not a good question. I didn't actually finish up. So that area that I was talking, this goes to the heart of your question. That area that I
Hmm?
was talking about off of across from the veteran apartments, the city actually has to do services over there. So it's a flood zone. Um and the piping needs to be fixed over there. And there's also a contamination issue, right? So at the time I was talking to the director, Michael Shaw, and it would make perfect sense pairing with developers because it would lower the cost of development in that area because the city has the obligation of raising the streets and all that good stuff. So to answer your question, I would look to pair with whatever city or area that we in to see what is already on the table as far as infrastructure that has to be invested in, whether that was city buildings, county buildings, or lands, the roads, or similar. And it would depend on development. So some of the development that I know of in Kansas City, we did privatized hybrid roads. So they had to do arterial roads and connect with other roads and all of that good stuff. I'd be fully engaged in trying to ensure that the process is simple. Uh, Development can be tricky, and I don't want to talk about things that I don't know, but from a policy standpoint, I would try to work to ensure that it's as simple as possible and it is actually impactful, not just I'll use the county jail as an example. Uh, we needed a correction institution. We needed investments in there, but $360 million for a building that has sewage issues is not acceptable, right? And
Sure.
if you look, yeah, and if you look in the area, there's other things that should have been invested in at the same time because it was already a known flood area.
Right.
So
Well,
trying
and
to
when
take
you
pre-existing, not no, go ahead.
no, that's fine. And since you brought up the prison, that's also, I mean, public safety is all also part of infrastructure. I mean, you do a project, especially maybe an entertainment district that requires more policing, that kind of thing. You also have public transportation needs to make sure we can get people to those areas. So that a lot of those things go hand in hand.
Mhm. No, you're 100% right. It's a overlay of an onion. And just because you mentioned entertainment district, so entertainment districts here in Kansas City is actually lacking. We don't have real viable, fluent nightlife. And I think a lot of that has to do with how we perceive and construct the development. Traffic is an issue, but traffic also brings people. And I think we need to be more inviting to making it easy accessible to get to entertainment venues
Mhm.
as opposed to having to walk square perimeters because we're afraid of what could happen.
All right, thank you.
Brandon, it seems like you're well versed and you have an eye on future development. You have a concept of what you might want to see. But as far as your overarching vision for the county, let's just say writ large, Are there any target industries or businesses you would like to see enter the county?
All right, you got me on the industries. There's targeted processes that I want to see. I want to see overt tax reforms when that comes to property taxes and also some of the processes that are associated. Uh, when it comes to increasing services, I'm looking to work across the county and increase our network of service providers. And that again goes back to the Office of Citizen Engagement, which is something I did at the city. So the whole ideal is to not have government being the dependatory agent, but government being the connector between community and services. Industry wise, you actually got me on that because I haven't sit down and thought about what industry we need here. Yeah, you got me on the industry. You got me on the industry. Because when you say industry, now I'm thinking about corporations and things of that nature. I haven't thought necessarily of a company or a corporation that we need here.
Fair
Totally
enough.
fine. It's a big question. You see some counties starting to gravitate more towards financial services, some gravitate more towards healthcare. Technology certainly
Okay.
is a big conversation right now.
Now that's different when you put it in that proximity. So when we talk about expanding countywide health services, uh, that again goes to the service provider. So let me backtrack a little bit and hit you with some of the ordinances that I was working on and how I see those working in conjunction with the county and city. So at the city level, I was working on a homeless enclave. This is something that y'all can research. I can see the committee hearings and the whole nine. I pulled back when the mayor came with a similar ideal, different functionality. The enclave that I was working on was supposed to connect state and local. So I reached out to the county and I reached out to some of the senators that I know. And the whole point was we wanted to do a development off of Front Street because it was a city-owned property, which gave us security because it was already fenced in. Already had a sewer line down there. We reached out to Truman. Truman was supposed to be one of the medical mental health service providers that we would actually have warehoused there, and it was supposed to be like a living triage where people come in, they get assessed. It's a safe place, and then if they need mental health services, if they need drug issue services or what have you, they're sent to the silos. So I would like to see countywide services connected like that, whether it's healthcare, when you talk about technology on the east side of Independence, Kansas City and Independence is the technology gap. So obviously I'd like to address that and work on that. But all of these are, in my opinion, how do I want to say this? Approximated on working with the different local governments. And I plan on fully engaging with Blue Springs, Independence, and Kansas City because I think the county is seen as a low level position because people don't pay attention, but it's actually a position that you can connect all cities because by statute, you're connected to all cities.
Right.
Yeah, you are in the unique position in county government to be that unifying body. So I appreciate that you have a healthy respect for regionalism and trying to build cooperation with the cities. Jeff, I think you have our final question if you want to
Sure.
bring us home.
Sure, absolutely. Well, as you know, realtors are in people's homes every day. So, we kind of have the pulse on the community, what's going on, in our cities. What makes you the candidate that realtors should support? Why should we support you?
That's the easy one because I'm the best candidate in the race. The incumbent, I expect to be supported and endorsed by most industries, but the incumbent is going to get outworked in this race. I do have a history in politics, and I lost a race before. City council race, I lost, and I lost that not off of backlash from the community, not off of scandal or anything like that. So I'm in a unique position of community support. I don't have the name recognition necessarily outside of Kansas City that I have in Kansas City, but with the aggressiveness that we're going to work in this campaign and the clarity that we're bringing on issues uh, and what we want to do once we get on the county, I'm obviously the best choice. If the incumbent was going to do anything to be proactive with investing in housing and development, y'all have seen it. My only issue has been lack of access to regionalism, just because he used that word. Uh, about a week ago, we had a debate in Blue Springs, And one of the things that I mentioned in Blue Springs was most of y'all don't know me because I represented on the east side. And most of my political lineage has been on the east side, which has been problematic because most of the agencies that continuate poverty are the same agencies in my community. And I learned this at the state. At the state level, and I'm saying all this so why I'm the best candidate. At the state level, I had a Republican come over to me, and we were sitting in the room. There was a gentleman from Kansas City, a prominent preacher in there, and the Republican was like, "Hey, L, you know him?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know he ain't came over and said nothing to me." And at the time, I'm the chair of the Black Caucus. I was like, "Why you think he hasn't came over and said anything to him?" He was like, "Well, we just gave him $1 million." I said, "I know. That's why he hasn't came over and said nothing to me because he knows I know he doesn't represent the community." And when you look at politics and politicians and elected officials, uh, I believe you have to support the best person. And hands down, we're going to win this campaign. And after we get in office, I would appreciate being able to work with you guys for development. But that's why you
Well,
support me because the incumbent ain't going to do it.
well, thank you very much.
I thank you.
Very much appreciate your optimism. And of course, thank you so much for your commitment to continuing public service. It's always great to see people continue throughout the process. Any questions we can answer for you?
Yeah, what does the realtor industry actually look for? So I work with you guys at the state level, didn't actually see you at the city level because it was more developers that we would see as opposed to the industry. So what's your actual issues in Jackson County?
I mean, that's a big question. Writ large throughout our marketplace, we tackle a lot of the same issues, whether it's short-term rentals, attainable housing is certainly, I would say, our largest issue, something that we probably pay the most close attention to, infill development, things along those lines. But I will tell you, it really just depends on each municipality. Each county is so unique that you'll have a litany of issues in one that don't pertain to the next.
Yeah, as I'm getting off, and y'all can email me a list of some cons. I ran into some folks that I know that's at the city, and they hit me with an issue that I wasn't necessarily aware of that changed in policy, and I'm pretty sure y'all seeing it countywide. I haven't studied it yet, so I just got it yesterday. But the pipeline issue. So previously, according to the ordinance, it was what's the word I want to use? It was not a condition, but a gift of the department to actually fix the pipe that broke from the street to the property. Now they're being assessed from the street, the middle of the street, to the property. So again, if y'all got issues like that are countywide, if that's actually regulatory related or different things, send me a con list just so I can have issues to study.
Yeah, very much appreciate you
That's
mentioning
good.
that. I will say that has not previously been on my radar, Jeff. Maybe it's something that you're aware of, but something to certainly look into. I appreciate you mentioning it.
Yeah, now he just gave me the paperwork yesterday. I haven't looked up the ordinance, but he hit me with all of it. The original ordinance is from 1968, and the city of Kansas City has reverted back to charging people now.
Hmm. Well, I appreciate the heads up on that. That's good awareness to have. But any other questions you have for us?
No, not really.
Well, thank you so much again for your time. It's been a fantastic opportunity to speak with you. Best of luck out there on the campaign trail, and we'll certainly be in touch soon.
No, thank you. Have a
All
good
Thank
right.
you.
day. So,
Nice
Take
to
care.
meet
Have a
you.
great afternoon.
no, thank you.